Welcome. Let me get this thing started. I'll just play the music while I set things up. Sorry for the noise. Adjusting my mic. Here we go. Hey, Sphax and Monk of Destiny. Hey, Aratasami. All right, hey everybody, and hi Elijah, and hi Patrick. I'm glad you guys could make it. Elijah and Patrick are good friends of ours, of mine, and Allison. Hey Narwhal. Yes, this is a shameless plug for the Dead Secret soundtrack. Definitely. I hope you guys can get the stream. Apparently I can't get it, but I seem to be stuck on the ad. Anyway, so I thought it would be cool to do, for today's creative live stream, to do like a retrospective on the whole soundtrack. So we're going to take a wider view of how a soundtrack is created. So we're going to look at a bunch of tracks. We're going to look at pretty much all the music from the game. This kind of works really well for this because it's a short soundtrack, so we can fit it all in at once. But we're going to take a wider view and talk about sort of what goes into like making a soundtrack cohesive, like a single work, and not just a bunch of like a collection of songs. And I think Dead Secret is perfect for that because it's very tightly focused. So you heard this already. This is the title music. So we're going to talk a bit about the title music, and since it's all done, it might be cool to like just point out, like we'll go in like a bit about how an entire piece is composed. Lately, in all the previous live streams, we've been sort of composing in more of like a kind of a fun experimental way where we just sort of layer new ideas on top of each other. And with this song, I did a slightly different technique that if you've ever read my blog and my piece about writing Metro Molecule for Color Sky, I used a very similar technique for writing for this track. So this is based on a sort of There's an interesting comment about Dr. Dre being my chief influence. You know, I actually don't know anything about Dr. Dre. So anyway, so this is based on a particular framework that I have that I use to like come up with a whole song, and it's 3 pieces. It's usually 2 chord progressions and then sort of like a free form section. So I made 2 chord progressions for this piece, which is this. It starts out with this. I'll solo this so you guys can hear it by itself. So that's 1 chord progression. There's a 2nd chord progression that I wrote, which is this one. Oops, that's supposed to be soloed. I must have unsoloed it and not realized it. So, okay, those are the 2 chord progressions that I made. That was what I started out with when I first started the song. Before I had anything else, I had those 2 chord progressions. And then I have this sort of bridge section here where I just started with the root note of the scale. And the scale is, I already forgot, so I wrote it down because I knew it would, D sharp Aeolian. It uses mostly the black keys. Anyway, so I just started with the root for this this particular section. So you can hear that it just starts out with the 1 note. Or actually, I think there's nothing playing except for percussion parts. So in this particular bridge part, I was more composing like kind of freeform. Like I came up with this piano piece with no particular chords in mind, but I wrote it anyway. And then I added these sort of descending notes. So yeah, everything sort of fits into that. So now that you know that there are these 3 sections, you'll be able to spot them. So the first chord progression is in this part here. Then the 2nd progression shows up here for a pretty short section, and then we have this like kind of long bridge section, and then it goes back to the 2nd chord progression here. It comes up again. So let's listen to the whole thing again, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now we're at the 2nd chord progression that I wrote. Now we're in the more freeform section that I talked about. So there's no real melody at all at first, and then we have the piano that comes in here and does this part. And then this part. Now we're back to that second chord progression. And then this is our ending, where I just sort of played notes as I felt like it. This was sort of improvised. So, okay. So, I realized I didn't really talk about Dead Secret itself very much yet. So, for those of you who don't know, Dead Secret is a very cool murder mystery game that I worked on. It just released last week. Let me find some screenshots here. I can show you guys. Screenshots. So you play as a reporter who is trying to investigate what was ruled as a suicide by the police, and you don't believe it. So you're going into the house and trying to do your own investigation, and things get weirder and weirder, and there's sort of a very cool, like, kind of science fiction-y plot that you kind of uncover, and it's very atmospheric. It's slow paced, but it does have some very scary moments that I love. It's also built for VR. You don't have to play it in VR, and you can, like, I played through the entire game not VR, and I loved it. But you also have the option of, like, playing just on, like, desktop. And it works either way. Like, you can play it through VR and it's awesome, or you can just play desktop and it's good too. So I'm not getting any updates in the chat. Are you guys still? Is everything still working? I'm still having some issues with the chat and the video. But anyway, so okay, cool. Yeah, it's still working. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of instrumentation and the choice of instrumentation and how it, like, relates to the game. So I started working on this in 2013. Chris Pruitt is sort of Dead Secret is sort of his baby, and he came to me and said, like, we're doing this murder mystery game. It kind of has this kind of funky, maybe almost Twin Peaks vibe, and it takes place in the 60s, so it's going to be a little different than, like, other things that you've done. And so I went looking around for unusual instruments to use. And I wanted to do, like, no synthesizers. And I even said no synthesizers on the Bandcamp page, but I think I need to change that because I recently discovered that there is a synthesizer on one track near the end. So I totally lied and didn't realize it. It was only when I was looking at these tracks today that there is one synthesizer, and I'll show you guys that later. But anyway, so I had to figure out what instruments I wanted to use. So it takes place in the 60s. It has a bit of a Twin Peaks vibe. It's a murder mystery. It takes place entirely in one house, basically, and like a shed outside of the house. And you're just wandering around through the house by yourself, and occasionally you get stalked by a murderer. So I wanted to sort of reflect the idea that it's just in a single house, and it's a little bit claustrophobic. So, and it takes place in the 60s, and, like, while we did have synthesizers in the 60s, they weren't used the same way that we use synthesizers today. So, okay, so the first thing I did was I used my brush kit, which is like it's just a drum kit sample from Battery, I think. Yeah. Called Jazz Brush Kit, and I love it, and I've used it in so much. So much of my music uses this exact same drum kit. But and these parts were ones that I think I played myself on the keyboard. So that was one thing I needed. So that was sort of like gives it the jazzy thing, and then this is like a Wurlitzer, I think. Oh no, Mark One. So it's like a electric keyboard, like organ. And then we have like piano. The piano doesn't show up much in the entire soundtrack, but did a little bit. And then guitar parts. Now, if I was to write this today, I probably would have recorded real guitar parts with my Fender. At the time, playing guitar wasn't really on my radar, because I remember I wrote this in 2013. So I did like a sample guitar thing. It's still, parts that I wrote. It's just with some really cool guitar sample things from Evolve, I think, library. So yeah, it sounds amazing. Like, I love using it. I try not to use it too much. Anyway, so I use this. I would probably record real guitar now, but I think I still used it really well, and it sounds good, and I didn't overdo it. There's a sort of uncanny valley with using samples. So like, sometimes you can try to use sample libraries and try to go for like absolute authenticity, and when you do that, it can occasionally just make it sound even worse, like make it sound less authentic by like attempting to make it like perfectly emulate the instrument you're going for. So like, I had this thing, it never played very like particularly complex parts, because as soon as you get more complex, it starts to become noticeable that it's like not a real guitar, and so this never really plays any really complicated parts, and that is like an intentional thing. So we have the guitar, and then we have some more unusual instruments here. So I went and searched online for a lot of different cool sound libraries that I think would fit. So it's like in a house in the 60s, and it's a murder mystery, and what do you choose for instrumentation besides obvious things like the brush drum kit or whatever. So I found a lot of unusual glass things. So this is a glass harmonica, and that's it is a very cool instrument. Here, you'll hear it here. So yeah, the glass harmonica has a really cool sound. Here, I'll show you some pictures of it. They look really cool too. I can't imagine how expensive one of these must be, but this was a sample, again, sample library. But look at this thing, it's so cool. So it spins. Older versions, I think, were like kind of like a sewing machine, where you'd like use your foot to, like a foot pedal to spin this wheel, and you'd get your hands wet, and you would basically, it's like glass, the same thing as like glass spinning, You've probably seen that before, like street performers where they get a bunch of different sized like wine glasses, and then they spin their fingers across them to make sound. This is pretty much the same thing, except that it's built into an instrument. It's very cool. So that I got for a lot of the parts in Dead Secret. And then, so that was one thing that I was like, okay, we're gonna get the glass harmonica and a lot of different glass things. I think it's I got a sample library called Glassworks, and it's a whole bunch of different glass instruments. So I got that specifically for Dead Secret. I also got this thing called Lumina Bells, which is a percussion library of nothing but light bulbs being struck. And I played like a part for it. So I thought, like, having like glass, and then you'll see later there's going to be some wooden and metal instruments as well that are like percussion. So I thought, like, having these kind of like mundane objects be like the percussion and the elements that make up it will like kind of give it this, one, it'll make it sound really unique, and two, it'll like help with the selling it that you're like in this small house doing an investigation. So it takes something that is normally pretty pedestrian here, like, I mean, it sounds cool, but it's also like, here, there's nothing you haven't heard before. Like, it's guitar, it's electric organ, and a drum kit, and a piano, right? Like, that's nothing you haven't heard before. But then, when you get here, it transitions to something more unusual and interesting. So then, after we've heard this kind of unusual part here, the other instruments come back in, and we have like all things working together. So yeah, so this title track is really good at like being like sort of a microcosm of everything in the whole soundtrack. So you have like kind of traditional ideas mixed with some more unusual sounds, and I think that's what's cool about Dead Secret, and what I like about the soundtrack that I did is that it sounds pretty unique. Let me see here. I wrote some notes down. Also, you'll notice that the title track has kind of like a fun, jazzy, confident vibe to it. There's not... doesn't sound particularly threatening, but maybe a bit mysterious, right? And that's intentional too, and we'll get into that as we go. Yeah, the Lumina Bells library is just amazing. I forget who made Lumina Bells. I can't see. Doesn't say. I forget. But yeah, if you search for Lumina Bells, you'll see it, and it's just so cool. And I won't use it for any other soundtrack. It is the Dead Secret sound. I don't think I could ever have it used in anything else now because of that. Oh, hey there. Hi, Big Giant Circles. Haven't seen you around here in ever. Okay, so that's the title track, and we'll play it one more time, and you guys, now that you guys know like all the different elements, we'll do one more playthrough. Another thing I probably would have done differently is I would have had more bass if I had done this more recently. Added in bass guitar. I think it sounds okay as it is, though. Big Giant Circles, or Jimmy asks, did you perform the brush kit, or do you have some sort of MIDI drag and drop? The brush kit, I performed most of it on my keyboard. I probably, after that, did some adjustments. Uniting Milk asks, what kind of organ sound are you using? That was Mark 1? Crunchy Expressive? I don't know. It was one of the default, like, instruments in the contract library. Now, I don't know much about organs, so... But yeah, it sounds wonderful. Anyway, so that's the first track of Dead Secret. That's like the title screen music. Sort of, it's supposed to like set the stage. Thanks, Jimmy. For those of you who don't know, Big Giant Circles is is an awesome game composer, and he's done a lot of cool music. And right now it's not coming to me, but he's done a lot of cool stuff, and he's also been on OC Remix. That's how I first heard about him. Was his work on OC Remix. And he's done a lot of cool stuff. You should look him up. He worked on one of the Mass Effect games. I forget which one. I think it was 2. Alright, okay. So now I'm going to close this, and we're going to go to the next song in Dead Secret. Thanks, Monk of Destiny. Okay, I gotta set this up to broadcast. I think we're good. Alright, that should work. Alright, let's play the first track. Yeah, I hear Danny B switched to Cubase a few years ago. I love it. It's just what I've always used. I have been using Ableton, though, for my live stuff, and I love it. So I'm going to probably be using both from now on. Alright, so this is... This is the music that sort of plays when you first go into the house and you first start investigating. And it's supposed to have kind of a similar vibe to the title music. Oh yeah, I love Ableton. It has a really cool workflow with the live clip things. I have a push controller here, just out of sight, and it is also really cool. Worth checking out. Okay, so we were going to, let's make sure this actually, Yeah, looks like it's working. All right, let's play it. So again, this plays when you first entered the house. It looks like this. You're kind of rifling through their stuff and investigating a little. You do not feel threatened in the game at this point. That comes a little later. Okay. So you've heard it now. Let's start talking about it. So we got a couple of questions here first. Uniting Milk, you're not the first person to confuse Dead Secret and Dark Side Detective, so don't feel bad. Dead Secret's a different game than I'm working on, but I am currently working on Dark Side Detective. Dead Secret, I finished. The game is out. You can get it on Steam right now, and if you get it on Steam, you'll also get a code for the Oculus version if you have an Oculus. And anyway, you should totally play the game because it's really cool. It's like kind of low key, really neat murder mystery, and it also the cool thing about the game is that it really does require you are required to figure out the mystery on your own, like the who the murderer is. The game does not hold your hand through that. Like, it will give you all of the evidence, and you have to figure it out at the very end of the game. It's very cool. So, okay. Big Giant Circles asks, guitar library. It's actually a couple of different guitar libraries from Heaviosity's Evolve. I think it's just Evolve, yeah. So they have a lot of really cool, like, very basic electric guitar libraries, and they sound amazing. I love them. If I was, again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but if I was to do the soundtrack now instead of 2 years ago, I probably would have recorded guitar parts myself. But at the time, I was doing everything digitally, so that's what I did. And it came out well, so I'm happy. Fishrock asks, what is chamber bowls? That is one of the glass instruments I was talking about from Glassworks. Yeah, this sounds really cool too. The lower you get, the more difficult it's like to listen to. Like it sounds more off key. But that works for later in the soundtrack, as you'll see. We use the same instrument, but in a different way. So, this has a very similar vibe to the title music, which is called Dead Secret. And I don't remember what title I gave to this. Let me look it up on Bandcamp. So this is called Ideofocus, which is a concept from the game, and you'll have to play it to find out. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. So anyway, this uses a lot of the same instruments. We have the brush kit here again. Very simple. We've added chamber bowls. Yeah, it sounds awesome too. So we really stuck with the glass theme in this. And then here's those Lumina bells again, playing, that's the light bulb thing, the light bulb library. Again, these I played all these on my keyboard, and then did some adjustments afterwards. Let's see, what does this sound like here? So yeah, it sounds really cool, right? And it's very unique and adds a lot to the style, and it becomes really distinct and you remember it. And then we have a couple of things here. This is, yeah, the chamber bowls, which you heard. I think these parts I played too on the keyboard. There's actually very little that I assembled very little that I assembled by hand, like through the editor. Most of the stuff I played on the keyboard for this soundtrack. We also have this other instrument that comes in and shows up a lot later in the soundtrack too, called, well, it's just some odd piano sample, again from the Evolve library. I was using the Evolve library a lot back then. This was in 2013, and it's a piano library that sounds really cool. And it's used a lot. So these together make a really cool sound, I think. Let's put it here. And we also have a copperphone, which is another favorite instrument of mine. And we use it a little bit here in... This is an 8-DO instrument. We use it a little bit in Dead Secret, but... It sounds great. So all together, you have this really cool bell sound. And then so this sound comes up more as well later in the soundtrack. So once you get into the house and the game is actually starting, it introduces elements that will show up later in the soundtrack, and the soundtrack sort of slowly morphs over time into a different sounding kind of thing by adding new elements slowly with each track. And you'll see more of that as we go. So, let's see here. And then something I named Satan's Viola, but it's not. It's another glass instrument. This one. I don't even know how to pronounce that. But anyway, it's another like bowed instrument. Sounds very cool. It shows up right here. I think that's the only part that shows up, yeah. So yeah, we have another song that's kind of jazzy, and it's similar vibe to the title music, and it's for your initial investigation of the house and sort of introducing you to the game. And it's still kind of fun. Like there's an element of mystery, but you don't really necessarily feel threatened by it. So that's how we start out. And now, let me see here. Again, if I was to do this, if I was to go back and do this, I would probably add a bass guitar part too. Not really sure why I didn't do it before. It sounds okay, but I probably would have added bass. Oh, here we go. We got some text here in the chat. Oh, cool, yeah. That's nice. Yeah, that's totally what it is. Choice of instrumentation was a big part of the process for making the Dead Secret soundtrack, and I think it really helped give it its identity. So, okay, so we're going to move on. Let's listen to this one more time, and then we'll move on to the next track in the soundtrack. If you guys have any questions, just like always, feel free to ask. If you have any questions about the game or soundtrack, technical stuff, just like always. Hey, Amora. Okay, so we do have a question here, and it's a good one. Sfax asks, did you play the game while you were making the soundtrack? Yes. Chris Pruitt, who was the director, creative director, writer of this game, he kept sending me builds, and I would play through them as we were working on the game. And what was really cool about this was even right from the start, when the game had barely even started, he just had a couple of rooms made, and he knew the structure for how the game's story was going to go. Because it's a murder mystery, and a lot of the game is writing, so it's easier to know the structure of it early on, I guess. So he knew exactly how the game was going to be structured. Like, you're going to investigate, something's going to happen, this is going to get uncovered. So he was able to give me a very clear idea of exactly what needed to be written for the soundtrack, and that really helped a lot. So it makes for a good easy way to talk about this too in retrospect. And so yeah, knowing the structure of the game beforehand allowed me to really map out exactly how the soundtrack would sound from start to finish. And we're going to get into that now as we talk about it more. Monk of Destiny says, other than doing live guitar parts, is there anything you wished you'd done differently with this? Yeah, other than the live guitar parts, I probably would have added some more bass stuff. There's not enough bass. It's very mid and high range and not a lot of low range. So I probably would have added a bass guitar part. That's about it. Everything else I really love about it, and at least some of the later tracks wouldn't need a bass, but these first two tracks definitely I feel could have done better with bass guitar parts. But again, I wrote it in 2013. It was almost 3 years ago, so it was a different part of my production life, and I think as it is, I'm pretty happy with it anyway. Aratosami asks, how do you find the correct libraries? How long do you need to find new ones for your tracks? Where do you find them? Okay, so in the beginning of a soundtrack, once I've talked with a developer and we kind of agreed on what kind of sound we want it to have, I go online and I have a list of different sound library providers like Native Instruments, 8Dio, Sonic Kucher, Sound Iron. There are a few others too, and maybe I should put a list up somewhere online so you guys can see all these sites and find them yourself. But I'll go on there and I'll look around. Usually the more eclectic stuff, the better. I always look for weirder instruments rather than everybody has the orchestra libraries and guitar strumming libraries or whatever. But I always look for the weirder ones, like light bulbs, and you'll see in the next song how strange it can get. And I look for it. I have a particular idea of what kind of sound, but not necessarily instruments. Oh yeah, I've been meaning to get Omnisphere forever, and I never quite bite the bullet to do it, and I really should do it sometime because everyone tells me it's amazing and it looks amazing. Omnisphere is a granular synthesizer, and it has a bajillion features and a million presets, which I'm very excited about, and it sounds awesome. But anyway, for choosing libraries, so that's what I do. I just go around, I listen to all the unusual libraries they have, and I think about how it relates to what I'm working on, and if I think I can use it well enough. There was something I did learn a lesson from this thing, and I'll tell you about it in the next track here. So I'm going to close this, and we're going to go move to the next track in the soundtrack. So we're going to go slightly out of order from the album order and the game order, but I think you'll understand why when I get there. So, okay, next song is going to be Woodcutter from the soundtrack. Yeah, Jimmy, you're totally right. You get a lot of presets in, like, say, Absinthe, but most of them like are just basically unusable. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty excited to try Omnisphere because it'll be uh, it'll be awesome. Hey, F kids. Okay, so this now is the first appearance of the person who's trying to murder you, and this is where you have to hide. You have to find a way to, like, you have to escape the murderer. Basically, you just run away from them, and it's crazy because normally up until this point the game was just like a point and click kind of adventure game, and then suddenly it's like you have to run away because some guy's going to kill you. Um, so again, I wanted to do something different, and I found an instrument online called the Friendo sample library, and it is some sort of strange monstrosity that they built out of wood and metal, like 2x4 planks and like pieces of metal sort of all grafted together, and they just recorded them like hitting it and making weird sounds with it. And I thought this is perfect for like a horror setting. So I'm gonna play this. It's gonna be a little bit unsettling, but I think you guys will enjoy it. Oh yeah, it's not working. I'm a dumbass. Hang on, let me get this working. I forgot to set up the broadcasting thing. Not used to having to do this every switching from one track to another. Start. Let's try that again. And it's still not working. Oh, an error. Init error. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart this. Oh, wait, no, I think I got it. I just chose the wrong thing. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you guys remember how I was talking about how the soundtrack slowly morphs over time, and how with this retrospective we can kind of look at the entire soundtrack as a single piece. Now, we have introduced the Friendo, which is this crazy weird sounding instrument. You get like weird sounds, And I will get into the friendo in a bit. But so we've introduced the friendo as a new instrument. And we have combined it with a lot of the elements that you've already heard in the soundtrack. So we have like the Lumina bells. You can hear it there, or like here. We've brought back the guitars. And we've added a few other things like unusual percussion, like this thing. Really fun. Everything was really fun in this. And then the guitar comes back here, yeah, along with the Lumina bells. So it's combined instruments that you're already familiar with new elements. So this is like you've started investigating, you found a lot of unusual things about this death, this guy's death, and unexpectedly someone appears in the house and is chasing after you, basically, and you have to try to find a way to hide. So suddenly the stakes are raised, and new elements to the music have been introduced. But you can still hear old elements, so it's like kind of familiar. It's in the similar style. The Lumina bells and the guitar keep it like kind of grounded in the same universe. But it's gotten weird. So anyway, okay. So now we're seeing the soundtrack slowly change. And now I'll talk about the friendo and how difficult it was. So it sounded cool in the demos that they showed, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. Like really cool, like the brutal sounding wooden instrument that's like all percussion. And it was, and it worked out great. But the way they built it made it very difficult to work with. So everything, sound libraries have what we call a round robin, which for every note, it'll actually record the note multiple times. Like it'll have like 3 or 5 or 7 recordings of the same note, so that you can play it over and over and it won't sound like a machine gun or whatever. It'll sound kind of natural because it'll play a different sample each time of the same note. And ostensibly the friendo does that as well, except each sample a lot of times in a lot of the libraries would be completely different. It would have like a round robin of like entirely different sounds, and it was, I don't know what their thinking was, but it was obnoxious and it made it really difficult to work with. I managed to work around it and everything sounds okay, but yeah, it was an unexpected issue. Oh yeah, the brush kit's in here too, I didn't even remember. Sorry, it's been a couple years since I looked at any of this, so I'm gonna forget some stuff. So yeah, sometimes when you're working with sample libraries, you'll get weird, unexpected problems like that. Okay, so we've heard that. Now we can, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next track in the story. We'll listen to it again. All right. I have not played Ori and the Blind Forest yet. It's on my list of games to play, but I haven't played it yet. I hear it's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Oh, we've got a question here. So Monk of Destiny asks, were there any specific artist styles you were drawing inspiration from when you were working on the music, or was the intention to just do you, but like the exact opposite of what people have come to expect from you? Yeah, part of me taking this was, taking this project on was that I wanted to do something different from FTL. Which even then I could tell that that's what, like, this is in 2013, and it was like FTL had exploded and it was really big, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to do something different to like immediately differentiate myself from that style. It turns out that the game wouldn't come out for another couple of years, but hey, Master Sword, I drew inspiration from Twin Peaks basically for the kind of jazzy bits. This more horror-oriented stuff, like from this particular track, Woodcutter, I'm not, this was like, it took me a long time to get this style down, and I don't entirely remember all of my thought process. I do remember it took me many, many attempts to get this sound down. All right, I'm going to close this, and we're going to open up the next one. All right, I think this is working. Okay, so this next one, thanks, Master Sword. I'm glad you like it. So this next one represents a huge shift in the tone and style of the soundtrack, and you'll notice immediately. And we'll talk about it more, but let's just play it first. So this is after you've successfully hidden from the killer who is stalking you, and some stuff happens that's kind of unexplained, and I don't want to really tell you. I don't want to give anything away, because seriously, guys, you got to play it. It's really cool. You can finish it in like 3 hours and have like a great time. And its system requirements are super low. You should definitely try it. So anyway, this represents a shift in the way the game feels, at least to me, where you've now, instead of just investigating something for journalism, you're also now like in danger of getting killed, and so the stakes have raised. You're not going to necessarily be as confident as you were when you started. The stakes are higher. Your own life is at stake. So like things are a lot different now. So I switched the style completely to something completely different, and you're going to hear it here. And it's very Danny Elfman inspired. But it uses some of the same elements. You'll see. Here, I'll just play it. All right, so we're going to talk about instrumentation again and how it relates to the entire soundtrack using this piece. So, like I said before, the stakes have been raised. Your life is in danger. This investigation that this adventure that you're on is now like much more intense. So you're not in any immediate danger. You're doing some more. You're in different parts of the house now, looking around, and so I wanted to have it feel less confident. It doesn't have sort of the jazzy, fun, breezy feel of the earlier tracks. But it uses a lot of the same instruments, and we have the friendo is still here, but it's much quieter. So it's like the killer still has a presence. The friendo that was introduced in the last track, where you were in immediate danger, is still lurking kind of in the background, and that's like, you can hear it, this part here. You can hear it again here. And at the end it plays a lot. So it's sort of like it's an instrument that was not in the earlier investigative parts of the game, but is now there. It's like lurking in the background, and it still like shares a lot of the old instruments that you've already heard. The copperphone is here. There's the piano, the copperphone. We have that frozen piano sound. And you recognize the guitar. And the Lumina bells are still here. So we still have a lot of the elements that you've already heard. We've got like the chamber bowls here, but they're presented in a completely new way to show that the game has changed for you. So at this point, the jazz elements have kind of moved away, and the mystery part has been emphasized, and the danger is still kind of lurking underneath. Oh, the brush kit's still here too. I guess you heard that. Not a whole lot, but again, we're de-emphasizing the jazzy elements and emphasizing the weirder sounding stuff. Yeah, here's the brush kit. So knowing the structure of the game beforehand helped me do this. Like, if I didn't know the exact structure of the game, this would have been much harder to implement. So the fact that Chris knew everything that was happening in the game when he was like telling me about it, and even showing me early builds that were clearly not finished, there wasn't like the entire game. He could tell me all the important story beats in it. And so I was able to come up with like this sort of overall structure where it starts out jazzy and the jazz elements go away and the weirder, scarier elements come in. And so you can see that here. So if you guys have any questions, I will gladly answer them. We have basically two chord progressions here. We have this one. And then we have this one. I guess we also introduced the Celesta here, which was not in any of the other parts of the game. Ooh. Probably if I go back, I would adjust the velocities on these. It's a little too heavy. Another interesting thing, I don't know if I can explain this very well, but I had written this whole track, originally had a very different arrangement. Like, all the same parts were here, but they were in a completely different order. And I experimented a lot with just rearranging them, and Cubase has a really cool arrangement feature where you can draw these, like, pieces. You draw these, like, little lines here, and then you, like, they're labeled, like A and B and C and D, and then you can arrange them in any order you want here, and it will play through them in that order. And so I was doing a lot of that to figure out the best arrangement for this track, and we got what I have now. So it's kind of cool. You can write it any way you want, and then, like, worry about arrangement later, which is sort of what I did with this, because I was not satisfied with my initial arrangement. But yeah, I'll play it one more time, and then we'll move on to the next track. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'd love to answer whatever. Okay, Monk of Destiny asks, was there any one track that was the most fun to work on, or was it all just a blast where you were overjoyed to just be doing something different in terms of overall sound? This particular track was one of the most fun to work on. switching to a yet another different style within a soundtrack was really cool, and it was really fun to write something kind of Danny Elfman-esque. This one, and then there's another ambient one. We're going to do the ambient pieces at the end. But yeah, everything was pretty fun. I had the hardest time doing that last track, the woodcutter track, and then the next one that we're going to talk about in just a moment. Those were really hard to get down because there's like no melody, no chord structure. It's just like a lot of weird sounds, and it's hard to make something like that and also make it like coherent, like, because you can just put a bunch of random sounds, but doesn't necessarily make for an interesting experience. So you have to organize it in some way, but you're not really sure how, because you're not working with traditional like chords and melodies. All right, let me see here. I believe this is the one. Okay, actually this is a different one than I was thinking, but all right, this is one of the last tracks I wrote, although it's not one of the last in the soundtrack. This is for a very specific scene where you're kind of under a time limit, which is kind of exciting. So now we've basically dropped all of the jazziness to it, and it's just unsettling, strange stuff with glass and copper stuff and chamber bowls. All right, here we go. Oh, right, it's silent. No, not working. Sorry about that, guys. I keep forgetting. Let's try this again. My bad. Let's try this again. Okay. So yeah, there you go. And just repeated. So yeah, we're again using a lot of the same elements that we were using before, but in a yet another like kind of different way. And it's not even with the same instruments, it's not like jazzy anymore. We even have the brush kit, but again. This also doesn't have any kind of like discernible chord structure, which is part of like, you know, that's intentional to make it kind of unsettling and weird sounding. The Lumina bells are very prominent in this one. Like here, and then like... I love the sound of these. So glad that I got these and was able to work with them. As you can hear also, this is in a 3/4 time signature. So it has 3 beats per measure. But yeah, we're using like the copper phone again and the chamber bowls like this. So like this is less melodic. But this is more melodic, and together they make a really cool sound. So this was copper phone by itself too. So when you have them together, it makes a really neat sound. And I particularly like the brush kit here. This was a lot of fun to do. Just a very simple sound. It gets louder and louder. When it's all put together, it just like has this great rolling rhythm to it that I like a lot. And then the guitar part comes in again. So yeah, this one was composed more freeform. Like I just sort of came up with this rhythm with the frozen piano piece. Like it all started from this. And then I just sort of built up on it. Kind of like how I do with like some of the live stream stuff that you guys have seen before. So anyway, I'm gonna close this, and unless you guys have any questions about it or want to hear anything in particular, we'll move on to the next track. In the soundtrack. All right, here we go. Closing this. But feel free to ask questions. Don't forget broadcast output. Yes, thank you. I probably would have forgotten. Okay, so this part is near the end of the game, and you have to... You'll have to... You're running from the killer again. So it's the pressure's on. It's very similar to the woodcutter track. But... almost all of the jazzy elements have been just removed. So it's now that you're further into the game, the jazz part is just basically gone, and you just have the weirdness. Fkids asks, how how's the Patreon stuff coming up? It's coming up good. I'm writing the pitch right now. I'm on my second draft of writing the pitch, which is like, the text that you see on the Patreon page when you get there. It's almost done with that. I'm almost done with that, and then I'm going to finish up the rewards, and I got to make a video, and I got to figure out when to actually launch it. But yes, there's Patreon coming, and if the Patreon does well enough, I can do 2 creative live streams a week, and it'll be awesome. Master Sword asks, this may seem like an odd question and not directly related to the soundtrack, but is there anything you do to try to protect your hearing, since it's your livelihood? Yes. If I ever go to any kind of show or even a bar or like a club or something, anything that's could be kind of loud, I always bring earplugs. I don't go to any event without earplugs. Yeah, that's anything that you think might be loud, always wear earplugs. And just don't listen to music too loud. You can listen to music loud occasionally, just you don't want to do it all the time. You're going to hurt your hearing. But yeah, just wear earplugs. If you perform, wear earplugs. Like perform music on stage, you should wear earplugs for that too. Oh, thanks, Master Sword. Okay, so we're going to play this. This is the second encounter with the killer who's sort of chasing after you. And like I said, at this point, the jazz elements have been dropped, and we just have more weird, scary stuff. Yeah, it's a really fun one. This was also where like the friendo was really difficult to work with, but yeah, you get an idea. It's there's no semblance of like the previous music anymore. So the mood has changed, and it's almost entirely just based around like odd sounds and percussion. So yeah, I hope you like that one. Master Sword, I would suggest either just continually buying different brands of earplugs until you find a brand that works, or go to your doctor and tell them that you work at your workplace has like is like a hazardous environment, like it's a loud environment, and see if you can get prescription custom fitted earplugs that are made to fit your ears specifically. You should be able to get it through prescription. Monk of Destiny asked, did Chris Pruitt or anyone else from Robot Invader give you any specific input towards the direction the music for the game would take, or did they give you full creative freedom on that end? They gave me a lot of creative freedom. We discussed some things, like we talked about like elements of like what kind of style we wanted to go for, and we both sort of got on this agreement that like Twin Peaks would be like a good starting point for like the jazzy bits of it. And I sort of came up with the sound for this more scarier stuff. But yeah, they basically give me full freedom to do what I wanted, and it was great. Chris Pruitt is an awesome guy. He's great to work with, and you should check out his awesome horror blog. So Chris Pruitt has this like lifelong goal to play every single horror game ever made, and he catalogs them all on this blog of his, and he reviews like all of them too, and he writes about horror game design, and it is really cool, and it's a great read. You should just go, if you like horror games at all, you should go read it, because it's a really cool blog. But yeah, they pretty much gave me mostly the freedom to do what I wanted, and I would submit something and they'd give me a little bit of feedback on it, but for the most part they let me make how I wanted. So that was really fun to sort of just like shape the soundtrack the way I felt. But it was a collaborative process. Like I would find things, and I found the Lumina bells and the Friendo and all the glass instruments, and I was like, what do you think of these? Like using this for the soundtrack, and like they listened to it, and they liked it, and so we kept going. So it wasn't just like I was like a black box that just like spit out music. I did like share every step of it with them. But yeah, it was great to have freedom to do kind of what I wanted. But yeah, most of this is just Friendo stuff, and then a few other instruments. The Lumina bells are in here, just not a whole lot. I think they only have one spot here where they come in. Yeah, just this. Yeah, this was, once I had this kind of like style down, I knew what I wanted out of this soundtrack. It was really fun to like put this together to make this crazy horror sound. And this is sort of like this, a lot of the stuff I learned from Dead Secret I then brought over to Dark Window, which is my my horror solo album that I made, that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. All right, so we're going to move on to 2 more tracks, and then we will have done the whole retrospective. Okay, so I'm closing this. And okay, so this one again is a very different style from the rest of it, and you're gonna notice when we play it here. But this is like one of the final sequences in the game. You're locked in a particular place, you can't get out. You're starting to doubt your own perception, and that's related to the story in the game. And I don't want to give it away again. I'd really like for you guys to play it. I'm fairly certain that none of you have played it yet, but you really should give it a try because it's awesome. But anyway, there's this part in this game, and you're kind of going a little nuts, and the pressure's on, You might die. You have to figure things out, and that's why this is like a bit more tense. Let me get the setup first. Nope, this one. All right, here we go. Okay, so yeah, this was meant to be very different again, and you can tell like it now barely resembles what the soundtrack was in the beginning, and this is what I'm talking about, where it changes over time. And it was really fun to like have it do that, and to like build the entire soundtrack as a single work instead of like a collection of things, and that was really cool. Here's the one part where I lied. This is a synthesizer right here. So yeah, I gotta change that text on the Bandcamp page, because that is a synthesizer for sure. That's absinthe. Too bad. But anyway, this also has orchestral elements, where it has the string part, which you can hear. And it slowly gets louder over time. But those Lumina bells are still around. This part here. And then of course a lot of the glass parts are still in. So yeah. This is near the end. There's a lot of vibrato and a lot of weird samples in here. Like you hear like the strange... Let me see if we can find it. Yeah, this part. It sounds really... It has a lot of weird stuff going on. That is a core library from Jeremiah Savage. Part of Acoustic Refractions, which is like one of my favorite libraries ever. It sounds awesome. Jeremiah Savage, for that library, he recorded lots of household things and like mashed them together to make weird instruments that sound really odd but are generally really playable. So I pulled them up for this. I used a lot of them for Gravity Ghost as well. All right, Arotasami has a question. How important is a good PC for music production compared to the program and libraries? My PC is pretty loud, so I can't hear quiet things that easily. I'm not sure what you're asking. So for the first question, it is pretty important to have a good PC. If you're going to do like purely synthesizers, you can probably get away with like a mid-range PC. But if you're going to do work with sample libraries, you got to have something that's beefy. You basically want to have a gaming rig, but minus the video card. Like, or rather, you don't need as good a video card. But everything else that you would have in a gaming rig, you basically want in like a studio PC. So you want a lot of CPU, you want a fast hard drive, you want a lot of hard drive space, and you want a lot of memory. And if you have all of those things, you can probably build a good rig for studio recording and stuff like what I do. I built mine myself, and it's basically a gaming rig, but with like kind of just like a low tier video card, because I didn't, I'm just doing music stuff, so you don't need a lot of video. But everything else is like pretty top of the line PC parts that I got off Newegg and assembled myself. X System, yes, Jeremiah Savage also did Kinetic Metal. I think that was his latest thing, and I got Kinetic Metal too, and I love it. All right, so we're gonna do one more track from the soundtrack, and then I think we'll be done for the retrospective for today. What about working with a relatively loud machine for sound work? Well, I have, so the machine that I built, I got a special case that has padding in it, like acoustic padding on the inside, so that it's actually makes the machine really quiet. You can probably, if I'm real quiet, you might be able to hear it through the microphone. But anyway, if you got headphones on, if you're working primarily with headphones, it doesn't really matter how loud your thing is, how loud your PC is. It does matter if you're doing acoustic recording. Like if you have a microphone and you're trying to record like an acoustic guitar or like sound effects or something, that PC, if it's really loud, it's going to ruin your recordings if it's in the same room as where you're doing the recording. Otherwise, just wear headphones and maybe put the PC away, further away than you normally would if you can. You could, in theory, put it away somewhere and get like a long HDMI cable to your monitor and like a long USB cable for your sound, your audio card. Those are the sort of the solutions I can think of right now. But like in here in this room, I don't do a lot of recording because it's not really made for recording. It's just like a bedroom that I've sort of converted into my studio. I put up some foam padding, but I don't like do recording. If I do recording, I go into a walk-in closet that I have in the other room, and I just stretch a microphone cable all the way from here to that room and record in there. But yeah, as long as you got headphones, I think you're generally okay. Even if your PC is a little loud. Alright, so we're going to do one more piece. and this is more of an ambient piece. So I did some ambient pieces for the soundtrack as well, just for various sections of the game. And one of them is like one of my favorite pieces that I've ever done, and we're gonna play it here for you. Like, I know this is like a pretty minimal piece. There's only one track, but I love it, and it's like one of my favorite things that I've done. So we're gonna listen to it. But first, okay, so let me explain to you sort of what I was going for with this. So this is played during a part where you discover a hidden like crawl space, and there's like someone's sort of secret room, and there's like some candles, and it's kind of odd. It's something that you weren't expecting to find in the game, I think, and it's kind of a neat sequence. But anyway, I wrote a bunch of these ambiances. This is my favorite one, and it's one of my favorite things I've done. I wanted to give off the impression that you were hearing like a large, not necessarily an orchestra, but something like large and with a lot of pieces, but it was like kind of hard to hear it. Sort of like an implication that there's a lot more going on than you're hearing. And so I have this, again, Jeremiah Savage, acoustic refractions. Here, let me turn off the compressor here, and you can... Or not the compressor, I'm sorry. The filter. So it's this incredible sound. I'm not even entirely sure what it was built out of. But it's a whole lot of sounds playing at once, as you can tell. But, so what I did is, F-Kids, actually, there are automations, and I will show you in just a moment. So, in order to get that feeling that there's more than you're hearing, I have a filter over it that it's a low-pass filter, so it cuts out the high-end stuff. And then I have it slowly gain and lose, like, body as it goes. So if I turn it back on, you will see as this goes, as this part rises up, you'll notice you'll hear more of the sound, more high-end stuff comes in. So like, it becomes more clear. That's an easy way to put it. you'll notice it gets the clearest like right here, as more of the frequency spectrum is exposed. So yeah, I'm really proud of this piece because it's like it pretty much conveyed the atmosphere and feeling that I was going for, and yeah, I love it a lot, and I hope you guys like it too, and I hope you guys really like the whole soundtrack and the game, which you guys should definitely play because it's awesome. I love it. It's very different from my other stuff, which is great. X System has a question, a more technical question. When do you prefer to do automation via knobs and when via the workstation, defining the curves and edges with the mouse? Usually I do automation with my mouse, just because it's like it's so much more convenient. Like this was done all with the mouse. I like grabbed, let me get the filter. I just had this. I was manipulating this knob with the mouse while I was recording it. I would love to have like an actual array of physical knobs and faders and buttons that I could use, but it's almost impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but it's really annoying to try to get it set up to actually work with your system. And then even when you get it working, you may want it to like work with different instruments at different times, and it's like it's so much trouble to actually set it up that I don't usually bother. I did have it for a while set up that way. I had this like hardware set up with my keyboard here that has some like knobs and faders on it, set up mapped to Cubase stuff, but it never worked the way I wanted it to, and it was never smooth, and it was always like I was always trying to fix it or adjust it somehow, so I kind of gave up. I know Steinberg makes devices that are made specifically for Cubase, but they are incredibly expensive, so I've never actually purchased them. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, I know this is probably my least popular creative live stream ever, but it was a good time still, like showing you guys everything, and I hope you liked it. And I hope you guys check out the game because it's really cool. You can get it on Steam now. Let me see here. Steam. Here it is. Oh yeah, there you go. Master Sword's already on it. You can get it on Steam right now, and you can get the soundtrack on Bandcamp. And yeah, I hope you guys check it out. And I will be back next Saturday for more creative live stream. Tuesday the Resident Evil with Allison might be a little late because I'm doing a lecture on Tuesday. But yeah, definitely be back on Saturday to do more creative live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed this because it was a good time. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Thanks a lot, everybody. And stop stream.